Hey, folks, it's time for the quote of the day. And today's quote is going to come to you from a man that I don't know a lot about his life. I do recognize his work. And one of the reasons I do recognize his work is because when I was a kid, my mom had I think it was like a coffee table book or something like that. This just had these big pictures in it. And I remember looking at it and thinking, I don't see, like, what is the big deal? I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. And I think that that kind of has carried with me through my whole life because as much as I know who he is and I am quoting him today and I want to give him a moment to honor him for his birthday. I just don't. It's never been something that I really cared that much about. That being said, the more I learn about him and the more I see it now through a little bit different lens than as a child, the more I appreciate what it is. Today we're quoting the architect, perhaps one of the greatest, if not the greatest, American architect of all time, Frank Lloyd Wright. Now, everybody, most people at least, should recognize that name. He is a legend. He is an icon in architecture. He created, I think it was like 700 or something like that. Oh, like up to 1,000, near 1,000 fucking buildings. And one thing that you need to understand about him before we go even a step further is the fact that I don't remember his exact quote here, but he once said something about how people put form over function or function over form, but the reality is that the best architects take form and function and put them together. And he really did personify that. He absolutely, the things that he built, the buildings that he created are, I mean, they're legendary. They're iconic. They're beautiful. They're breathtaking. The problem is, he could not possibly, and this is the saddest story I'm going to tell you, really, when you think about it. He could not possibly have understood quite as well the effect that climate change was going to have on some of his architecture. It is sad to say, and if you don't know this, this is sad to report. That some of his buildings, some of his most iconic works, are essentially uninhabitable now. They're not being given a clean bill of health, if you will, because there's been so much runoff and so many changing landscapes and things like that that the house, even though the architecture was sound at one point in time, it was sound in that it relied upon the natural area around it, and that natural area has changed in some instances. And it's only a few, but it is sad when you think about it. You have this multi-million dollar building that was designed by one of the greatest architects of all time, and he really did believe in the forming and melding together of nature and man, and he puts it into this building, and then because of man's complete disuse and destruction of our natural world, it is no longer habitable. Like, that is a sad thing to kind of come to terms with, but it is true. And I think that we're going to find that more and more, as people disregard and discount the effects of climate change. You're going to find more and more that places that have these beautiful architectural marvels that are built into hillsides or built, as Frank Lloyd Wright writes, waterfalls and things like that. A lot of them are going to become uninhabitable because their architecture is based upon nature too, and that nature is constantly changing. So I just thought that was a really sad thing, but at the same time something that we probably have to come to terms with. And it leads me directly into one of his quotes, and we'll talk more about him in just a minute. But I wanted to get to this quote while it was still on topic with what we're saying, because I absolutely love this quote. And if you know anything about my history, if you know anything about things that I've said in the past, you'll know that this is 100% me. This is exactly how I feel about, I guess you could say, religion and spiritualism. Frank Lloyd Wright very famously once said, "I believe in God, only I spell it Nature. I believe in God, only I spell it Nature." Now, I love this quote because this is how I am. I believe that if you want to have the concept of God, if you want to understand what God is, if you want to really believe in God, you need to look at the beauty of God's creation. And I'm not talking about human life in the same way that a lot of people do when they say that. People will say, "Oh, look, houses and cars, and they say, but I don't view that as, I look outside, and every day I sit in my car and I look out at the clouds and I look out at the plants and I look out at just the life around me, the bugs, and the occasional cat that crawls through my yard. I'm making this video literally looking out at it as I'm saying it, but that's what I think of. I think of nature, and I think that if there is a representation of God, it is in this. And the mistake that so many humans make is that we believe we are above and beyond and separate from nature. We make ourselves separate from nature, and that in that statement is where I find just absolute respect for everything that Frank Lloyd Wright did in terms of his work, and that is his combination of his trying to meld nature into everyday life and into an art form that we all, at least most of us, can look at and just find fucking breathtaking. Now, I say respect for his work because if you know anything about his life, then you know that there was a lot of scandal around him, and I wanted to touch on that because I think that it's only fair that if we lift up a voice like his, or a work like his, that we talk about some of the things that are absolutely the drawbacks of him as well, and one of them is that, well, he just wasn't very kind to some of the women in his life. And when I say that, there's no allegations of him beating them or anything like that. He was a perpetual, just constant horn dog, I guess the word is. I don't know. He left his first wife for his mistress. He built her a house, and then he left his wife for the mistress, and then I don't really know all the details of it, but she was murdered, and then he got another wife, and then I believe that he was caught in an affair multiple times by her. They ended up getting a divorce, and then he married his third wife, and for all reports, there was an understanding there. Like, I believe that he did cheat on her as well, but it was, he was a little bit older, and there was an understanding of that being not okay, but that it was going to happen. So this was at the point in time scandalous, and it was funny today because I was talking about it, and I was like, when I first read that, I just read scandals, scandals by Frank Lloyd Wright, and I was like, oh my god, like, what did he do? Was he this horrible? Was he a racist or something? But then I read it, and this is how far we have fallen. Speaking of like natural erosion and things like that, this is how far we've fallen. My first thought when reading about this man being a serial cheater on the women in his life, being dishonest, and just traits that I find absolutely reprehensible. Um, my first thought was, well, shit, he's damn near presidential. Like, that genuinely was my first thought. Was like, that's not even a scandal at this point in time. What are we even talking about here? Now, all that said, I did want to give you one more quote by the man, and I think that it's very, very true. And I think that when you think about this quote, I want you to think about not just the good parts, but the bad parts as well. Because I've seen firsthand what the bad parts in this do. And it's terrifying, the effect that it can have. Now, let me get to the quote. Frank Lloyd Wright once said, "We create our buildings, and then they create us. Likewise, we construct our circle of friends and our communities, and then they construct us." I'm going to read that one more time. We create our buildings, and then they create us. Likewise, we construct our circle of friends and our communities, and then they construct us. It's a very, very common thing. People say that you are who you hang out with. Like, your closest circle of friends are a representation of you. And I think that a lot of times people forget that you are literally constructing your life as you go. You're constructing who you are as you go. And when you surround yourself with good people, with good hearts, whether they have money or they're whatever, doesn't matter. What matters is the goodness of the person. And then on the other side of that coin, when you surround yourself with cheap, apathetic people that only really care about themselves, or only really care about their money, or only really care about how hot they are, or they only really care about whatever it is, like they're shallow people, you will become like them. They will build you into that, and it's just a warning. Happy birthday to Frank Lloyd Wright. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.